I'm Claire. Welcome back to Ballymelon Farm. We're in the pantry again today. So I've done the part one of the pantry tour, which was going through all of our preserves. Today I just want to focus really on our friends here in New Zealand, where we get our jars from, where we get our preserving equipment from, a little bit about our New Zealand brand of jars, and what we keep in our pantry out here. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. So let's get into it. So with preserving comes a whole lot of jars, and we have always stored our jars in this pantry before it was even a pantry. So behind me here there's some built-in shelves, and that's always where we've kept all of our empty jars, and we have kept all of our full preserving jars in the house, either in the kitchen or in any cupboard space that we've been able to find. Today's video is going to be lots about jars. I really love collecting jars. It's just been one of those things now that anytime we're in a different town, I'll pop into their secondhand shops or op shops and things like that and see what kind of jars that I can find. I love finding really old ones or really different ones. So I'll show you a bit of the collection that I have, as well as where we get them from and what kind of prices to expect to pay for secondhand jars and for full price jars. So the lighting in here is not the best, and I'm having to step over pumpkins to get right in here where my jars are. So hopefully I'll be able to get the footstool in here to get in and show you some of them. So this is a shelf where we store our jars. It's a really great space for them. You may notice that I've got a lot of the boxes, the original boxes for our jars. These are great to store jars in, so I recommend that if you get a case of jars, keep those boxes because they're amazing for storing empty jars in. So I'm going to start with my favourite type of jar, which is bull jars. If you are in New Zealand, since COVID, bull jars have been impossible to source. So we started preserving in 2019, and we were able to secure ourselves, I suppose, a lot of bull jars before they stopped exporting them to New Zealand. Hopefully one day they will come back. I'm really not sure, but anyway, I'm going to go through the bull jars we have and talk to you a bit about the different types. I'm going to start with probably the jar that I use most regularly, which is it's a pint, which is about 500 mils, and it's a wide mouth jar. So there are two different types of jars you can get. So a wide mouth or a regular mouth, I think it's called. So these are both bull jars. They're both exactly the same size, but the mouth of them is different. So wide mouth, regular mouth. I like them equally as well. The wide mouth is really great for it's obviously got a bigger mouth, so you can kind of stuff things in it a little bit easier. Although in saying that, the shoulders of jars are really good because you can also kind of shove things under that shoulder and they stay in a lot better. So both jars I really like. So we have I have done a jar inventory, which if you have a ton of jars like me is really handy. So I'm just looking at my piece of paper here with my jar inventory on it. So we have roughly about 80 pint jars that are the wide mouth variety, and then we have roughly 18 to 20 of the regular mouth and pint jars. So other bull jars that I have are the quart jar, which is roughly a litre, and I only have the regular mouth in these jars, and we have roughly about 70 of these jars. So the next jars we have, and these are a bit of a later purchase for us, is the pint and a half and that's a wide mouth. We got the 1.5 jars because Kylie at the Kiwi Family Kitchen, which is where we've purchased most of our ball jars from, had these ones left over still. I think I got these 2022 or 2023, and I think just because they're like a random size, so she had some of those left. So we're a family of 7, so I find that when we're making something with a stock, that this is not enough and a quart is too much. I specifically bought these jars for potatoes, so we pressure canned potatoes because I thought 2 of these would be the perfect size for a meal for us in potatoes, so they'll be handy for that. At the moment I've got stock in some of them. We have got 30, we've got 32 of those jars. So we have got 32 of the 1.5 jars, which are really good. The other jars that we'll do are these half pints. These are really good for jams. So we mostly have jams in these, although I do have some pickles because I've never eaten a pickle before and I didn't want to make a whole lot of them in a jar and then not eat the whole thing. So good for things, I find, if you're trying new things. So this is a peach barbecue sauce that's new to us, so a good size jar for jams and a good size jar for if you're trying something new that you haven't had before. Really, really good size. The last jar we have from Ball are these, I think they call them jelly jars. I guess they're technically a quarter of a pint, and they're the same. Like, we find them really good for just things like this is another barbecue sauce. If you haven't tried something before, or you just want open a little portion at a time, this size is really, really great for that. They are all the regular mouth, so both of these ones. I do have 4 half pints, the half pint in a wide mouth, and these jars are just a waste of space. They're they're cute, but like by the time you put headspace in this jar, you are hardly going to fit anything in it. It's so teeny tiny. So that's the wide mouth version of the half pint. We also have a few of these half gallon jars. I really like these for fermenting in. They are a really great size for that. You can't preserve in half gallon jars if you're following the guidelines, because they don't have any processing times for them. So you'll see in your recipe books and that for preserving that there are times for pints, half pints, and usually quarts. So no half gallons or gallons, if you could find a pot big enough to fit it in anyway. So most of the ball jars ranged from, I think, around like $10 or $12 for a bigger one to maybe like $8. Not that it matters because you can't get them anymore, but so those are kind of the price range we were looking at for ball jars. Half pints were around $6-ish, I think. I can't find any prices for them anymore because you can't get them in New Zealand. So those are my ball jars. I would recommend, if you are out and about and you see any ball jars in a secondhand shop, you'll be very, very lucky, but I would snap them up. They're a great preserving jar, and I would really recommend those. Right, so I'm going to go from my favorite jar, the ball jar, to my least favorite jar, which is the AG jar. So I feel like not a very loyal New Zealander saying this, but the AG jar is my least favorite, and I will say more specifically, the modern AG jar, which is made in China, is my least favorite jar. So this is the 1 litre AG jar. It's an AG special jar. It is a new AG special jar, which you can get at Mitre 10 or Spotlight. I think Stevens has AG jars as well. We picked up all of our AG jars on special from Spotlight, where they were over half price. So this was right at the point for us where we couldn't get bull jars anymore, and before I knew how much I hated AG jars. So the problem I have with new AG jars is not necessarily the jar. So the jar is fine. I've had no problems with the jar. It is when you get the lid and the ring for the jar where the problem occurs. So I will show you what I mean. So when you buy a new jar, it will come with a lid. So this is an AG lid, and it will come with a ring. For AG jars, they come with the gold ring and the gold lid. So this is the problem I have when you put the ring on it and go to screw down the band. The lid gets stuck. So the lid gets stuck in the ring. So I've had so many jars not seal because the lid is just stuck in the ring. So when you screw it down, it's not, it doesn't stay on the jar. It kind of gets stuck in the lid, which is a real nuisance. I've managed to overcome this problem by, I've got so many of these, not using these. So my favorite way to use the AG jars is with a different lid. So I've got some ball lids that I stocked up on before they disappeared, and I also use 4 jar lids, which I'll talk a little bit more about when I come around to our lids. I find that with these lids and a silver ball ring, that the jars, check that out, stays on. So that's been the way that these have had like a bit of a saving grace, and I'm still able to use them, is just by changing up the lid and the ring. So still worthwhile if you're able to, give that a go. Now, I just want to note that this is my own personal experience with them. Let me know in the comments if you have had good experience with them, because I have not. So the AG special jars also come in the 500ml jar, which is equivalent to the pint jar. These are a really good size. What do we have in here? So I've got beans in this size jar. I've got some chickpeas. So yeah, different jars for different types of food, depending on, how much you think you're going to consume in one go. I have to say that I have not had so many problems with my AG, that way around. I have not had so many problems with my AG half pint jars. So these have all got jam in them. But obviously with jam, it's not as important that you get that really good seal. It's still important, but it's high in sugar. It's gonna last fairly well on the shelf. The equivalent to the half pint, or 250ml. Alright, so the exception of my I hate AG jar rule excludes New Zealand, made AG jars. So the old jars, the ones that were made in Australia or New Zealand, I love them. So I love collecting them, I love using them, they're the bomb. So I have got a few different types of AG jars. So the AG utility jar, so you can see that's the little logo on it. This is the liter jar. I love using these for fruit. So the AG utility jars, they just fit your normal lid on. So any brand of wide mouth lid that you find, they fit really well. And they take a green ring. So these rings are brand new, and they are the Perfect Seal brand. So these I just found at our local Foursquare, 10 minutes away from our house. You know, easy to find. Now I will say that I've talked to people in different parts of the country and these are impossible to find. So a lot of people don't recommend collecting AG utility jars to use because these rings are so difficult to find. So before you go and seek out old AG utility jars that take the green lid, I recommend going and checking your local supermarket and Foursquares for the Perfect Seal green screw bands before you do that. So we also have them in, oh, it's my timer for my peaches that I've got on it at the moment. I also have them in the 500ml. These ones are called AG Improved Utility, and they are just a thicker glass than the AG Utility, so you can just tell the difference by holding them. Obviously these two are kind of similar in weight because this is a bigger jar, but when you have two of the little ones, you can feel the difference in the weight of the jar to tell whether they are thicker or thinner, but also you can tell by the name that has on them. So the improved ones are thicker ones, the just the AG Utility is a thinner glass. They both take the same thing, so a regular wide mouth lid and the green band. So we've found those jars to be absolutely amazing. We've had no trouble with them. There are a few things that I want to share with you, I suppose, if you are going to be looking at buying and using secondhand jars. So the first thing is where to look. In Taranaki here, I've checked op shops, like vintage shops, secondhand shops, antique shops. I've found some, but not very much. When we went over to the Hawke's Bay recently, I found tons and tons and tons of them. So I think obviously the Hawke's Bay being a fruit producing area, the jars were just abundant. So that's something to take into consideration. And I'd say if you can't find any in your area, when you're out traveling around New Zealand, go in and check out what different areas have, because you might be surprised that they're completely different to your own area. So the other thing I like to do when I am going and looking for jars is to take one or a couple of different types of rings with me. So when I find a jar, so you can see this, it's unbranded, it's got like this detailing on it at the bottom. If I found a jar like this in an op shop, can I use it for preserving? So if I have the ring and I can fit the ring on it, well then I know I can use it for preserving, so which means that it's worth buying. So that is a good thing to take with you if you're looking for jars secondhand. The other thing you want to consider is to give the jar a really good check, check. So kind of make sure it doesn't have any cracks in it. And then you want to check around the rim of the jar. And if you just run your finger around the rim, you'll be able to feel if there's any like nicks in the top. This one does have a nick in the top of it. So that just means that when I pop the seal on, that there'll be a little tiny gap and it won't secure the lid on there properly. So this is a jar that I don't want to use when I'm preserving. I can use the jar for storing dry food in or something like that and put up on the shelf, and that will look really nice, but I don't want to use this one for preserving. So these different types of jars, there are a ton of them. I've got another one here that is an unmarked jar. It's been somebody's homegrown pears and peaches at one point and a Christmas present to somebody. So all these unbranded jars these are all really, really old jars, would have been used for coffee or pickles or like peanut butter or something like that. And they are all good for preserving. So I can fit my green ring on that one, and I can fit it on that one, and I can fit it on that one. So even though they are not branded AG or any other Perfit or any other type of preserving jars, I think like Kate's Kitchen or whichever other jars that you have, they fit the ring, so I can use them for preserving. So it's a really handy thing to take around with you and grab up like just unbranded jars. So like I said, I do like to collect jars, and I have got some really, really old ones. So this one is an AG special jar, but it is a really, really old AG special jar from around the 1930s. These jars with the slit in the bottom came out. So the earliest advertising I could find for this type of jar was from 1931. I think it's so cool that I can have this jar that has had preserves in it for almost 100 years, still going strong, and I can still use it. So I really love the history of that, and finding out, like when different jars were released in New Zealand. The other really cool old jars that I have, so here you go, here's one with food in it. So this is another one with this slit bottom. This has got our peach pie filling in it. It says on the bottom, I don't know if you can see that, but it says made in New Zealand, which is really cool. And these guys have been around for almost 100 years, so that's pretty special, I think. I could pass them on to our kids and grandkids, and they could last like another 100 years with preserves in them. So that is really, really cool, I think. So I do have some other old AG jars. So these are AG Queen jars. They would have had like a gasket, a rubber gasket of some sort on them around the glass lid, and then secured with the clamps for preserving. I wouldn't use these for preserving now, but I like collecting them. I think they look really cool. When we do up our kitchen, I'd love to put them with something like salt or something like that on our shelf, and I just think they look really cool. These are so old as well. I think the first AG jars were made in were around in like the 1920s, I think. So that's pretty cool that we can have and use something in our kitchen that's that old. So another really cool jar in our collection is this AG Improved Utility Jar. So this is the half-gallon sized, so maybe 2-litre jar, I think that's right. I found this one in a secondhand shop, and I really loved that somebody had used these jars for their little pickled onion business. So this is Abdul Homemade Pickles, manufactured on Ruahine Street, Palmerston North, and it's got like a little phone number. I think that's really, really cool. So we do have a couple AG jars, old AG jars this size. So Lance actually just gave me this jar today, which he said he had it at uni with like a little Queen collection in it. And it's an old AG special jar, which is really cool, in the 2-litre size. So that's going to be added to the collection. It's really cool. Okay, so here I've got an AG Queen jar, and you can see the, I don't know if I can get this off. Yeah. Oh, it's really stuck on. There we go. Oh, it's sealed. Oh, it must have been on there for a while. I can't get it off. But hopefully you can see that it's got the rubber gasket around it. So that's really cool. This says made in New Zealand. So yeah, I love, like, how cool is it? It's really cool. So now I'll just move on to the price of these secondhand jars. So you're probably looking anything from like $1 to $10. $10 is the price of a new jar, but if you're in an antique shop, they're gonna sell an old AG jar for $10. You know, easily $5 to $10 for a old jar, you know, which is fine. I can say I've definitely paid around that much if I see like a really cool one that I want. But for the day-to-day preserving of jars, you're probably looking at around $2 to $5 for a, so $2 to $5 for a quart size jar, either labeled with AG or an unlabeled jar. So you can see I paid $2 for that guy. That is a really good price. So when we went to the Hawke's Bay looking for jars, we actually stopped in Palmerston North on the way, and we went into an op shop, and they had quart jars for $5. I still bought them for $5 because I needed jars, and I didn't know that I was going to get to the Hawke's Bay and they were going to be $2. So I bought about 12 jars for $5. I think still a good price. They don't tend to like depreciate. So yeah, I think $2 would be the best price that you want to pay, but I'd say up to $5, you know, if you're really after them. I don't think paying $5 is ridiculous. So I'd say the majority of our jars are those unmarked or AG utility second-hand jars, and most of our fruit goes into those jars. So I have not tried pressure canning in these jars, but they are amazing for fruit. So I don't know, one day I might do an experiment and try pressure canning in them, but it does make me so sad when jars break. So, because it's just such a waste of everything, like food and everything. So most of ours go into fruit. Alright, so the next type of jars we have are these Le Parfait jars. These are all from the Kiwi Family Kitchen. These are like close, so close to being my favorite jar. I really just love how easy they are. So they come with the gasket. They're just a glass lid with a clip. So you pop the gasket on the top here. You just clamp the jar, and that's all you have to do. So you don't have to muck around with lids and the rings. You can use the gaskets. So like look after these really well, and they'll last for ages. But yeah, so we have got these. So we've got these in, I think this is a 500 ml jar. We've got it in the 750 mils, and I'm pretty sure this is a 250 ml. So yeah, I really love these jars. If you're looking at buying brand new jars, I would highly recommend these. These are available now in New Zealand through the Kiwi Family Kitchen and probably a couple other places too. But yeah, really awesome jar, super easy to use. They seal really well, and the little gasket thing is just, and the clip, it's just super easy. So if you're looking at buying brand new jars, the Le Parfait jars I would really recommend. So the other thing you can do with jars is just reuse old jars. So these ones here are just this tomato passata that we got from the supermarket. Once we had used it, we just saved the bottle and the lid, and you can reuse them as long as the lids are clean. This is one of our own that we've just reused the lid for. You can also buy replacement lids from a place online called Arthur Homes. I have not done that because it is very confusing. There are so many different lids. I think what you would need to do is measure the width of the lid that you want, so it is easier. But I will definitely do that because these bottles are just a really good size for doing that passata in. A really great size for our family as well. Like one whole bottle into spaghetti bolognese is really great for us. So the other jars that we have collected, and we're not able to currently use these, are the Fowler-Vacola brand. So these are an Australian type of jar that seal with a rubber gasket and a lid. You can buy replacement lids and gaskets for these jars, but they don't do it directly from their website, so you have to contact them via email and kind of order that way. So I haven't got around to doing that yet. I think it would be really cool to use these jars. We've got a couple different sizes of them, and they, you know, they seem to be really good jars, and it would just be really cool again to use something that has been used many times before. So yeah, I really like the idea of using these. So the other thing I really like is when I got the jars as well as so the green preserving pot up there. So I got those from Facebook Marketplace, and it came with these preserving tools, which I think are really cool. So there's like this one. So like this is like a peach pitter, so you know, like scoop out, or a plum I suppose, scoop out the stone. There's this one which is for like scooping out the core of like an apple or pear. So this is the little bottle opener or the jar opener for their brand of jars, which is awesome. So they're all like branded, and like a little like debubbler tool, which is really cool. So that all kind of came as a set, which yeah, is really awesome. So the first time we came across the Fowler-Vacola was at an antique shop, and we did buy the canna, so it's really cool. It's pretty old, so older than the other one I have. So that's it there. It's just a stove top canna, so you put it on the stove, pop all your jars in it, turn the stove on. The cool thing about that is it came with a really old version of the jar opener, which is really neat. So yeah, I like that just because I like collecting, so that's really cool. Right, next we're just going to move on to our equipment that we use and where we got that from. Okay, so this shelf here is where I keep all my preserving gear. There's something missing because I'm preserving at the moment. Yep, so let's get into this one. I'm going to start right at the bottom. Alright, so I'm going to start with the pressure canner. I think just because it's down on the bottom shelf here. Our pressure canner came from Australia, from a website called Oz Farmer. When we bought it, it was definitely cheaper than they are now, but I think Oz Farmer do have really great sales. So if you don't know, a pressure canner is just for preserving low acid foods, so things like vegetables, you know, without pickling them, and meats. So the pressure canner can get to a higher temperature than a water bath canner, which means it kills off those things that can cause you know, like botulism and all those yucky scary things that you worry about when you're preserving your own food. We got the pressure canner because we have a large vegetable garden and we wanted to be able to free up some of our freezer space and have shelf stable meats and vegetables. So that is what the pressure canner is. Just a note that you cannot use a pressure cooker to pressure can, so it has to be specifically a pressure canner. Ours is a Presto and that is from Oz Farmer. So it's quite a big pot. It fits, let me get some jars. So it's quite a nice tall pot. It can fit the quart jars or the litre jars. So mine can fit in 7 of those, which is really cool, but it can fit like 19 of these ones, I think, because so it has a rack, which means you can double stack it. So I can put in the bottom of here a row of jars, and then I can stack on top another row of jars, which is amazing. And it makes it just go, you know, preserving go so fast. So what you do with this is it has a little weighted gauge on it. It builds up pressure, and then you just preserve your things normally based on the recipe that you have all the time charts. So I love it. It works really well. It's not a necessity for if you want to preserve, so it's kind of like a bonus extra if you if you're like really into preserving and stuff. I would recommend it, but if you're just interested in starting out, it's not necessarily something that you need to have starting out. Although in saying that, it's a big pot and it makes a really good water bath as well as pressure canner. So the water bath, you just don't put the weighted gauge on it. And we actually bought like a really big preserving pot and the prices were quite comparable, so you know, it may still be something that you look into if you are keen on getting preserving. So the other things we have down here on this bottom shelf is just our easy hangi. It is a really large, if you're not keen on buying something from Australia but still want a big pot, the easy hangi pot is actually a really decent pot, so really good for water bath preserving. And then we just have our pressure cooker there as well, which is just for normal pressure cooking, not for pressure canning. So next here we have our old AG preserver. These are from, I'm pretty sure this one's from like the 70s. So it's a plug-in benchtop preserver. So you fill it with water, plug it in. It's got like so it has got like its little heating thing down there, and it just heats the water and preserves just like a stovetop preserver, but you can put it on the bench and plug it in. So that works really well. Look, it's even got a price on, so we paid $95 for that from a second-hand shop, I think. So the next thing, it's really good to have some of the biggest heavy bottom stock pots you can find. You want heavy bottom because, so I use this one for like making jam or putting the syrups in for preserving. So the heavy bottom just helps distribute the heat easier, so you don't get that burning on the bottom. So the other day I did actually use my Kmart pot for making, just going through here, my Kmart pot for making, I think I made the plum preserve in it. So this is my Kmart one, and it's like I'm lifting it with one hand. It's so light. It's a super big pot, but it's, you know, pretty useless for that type of application. So I would recommend getting the best quality pot that you can find. Whoops. Yeah, that's got a heavy bottom. So this one I think is only, so that one's only a 10-litre pot, so not very big. In the kitchen I have got a big 24-litre pot, which cost quite a lot. So I think it was like $250. We got it from Moore Wilson. It's amazing. It can fit so many jars in it. It's great for a water bath. It's great for putting big batches of preserves and stuff in. Yeah, but the cost, you know, you do need to kind of pay that extra bit. You know, our Kmart pot was like $50 or probably less than that, and it's just useless. So yeah, so if you're preserving, getting some really decent sized pots, making sure they've got that heavy bottom in them. Often these AG preservers here are mistaken for urns. So yes, I think because they've got the tap on them, people assume that they are like an urn that you just fill up with hot water and that you can pour cups of tea and things like that. But yeah, they've got the AG preserver on them. Right, I've got all of our tools and things just in these drawers from the warehouse. Our canning tools, we'll go through some of those, eh? Okay, so some of my stuff is in the dishwasher because I've just been preserving, but I will try and go through the things I've got here and remember what I've got inside as well. So first of all, a good pair of jar lifters is really good. These are my favorite ones. I've got some that I don't like as much, but yeah, if you can find a good pair of jar lifters, they are awesome. Next would be some funnels. So these two funnels are in here because they're not my favorite ones. My favorite one is in the dishwasher. So I've got another wide mouth funnel that is a plastic one that I just really like. I tend to gravitate more towards that one than this one. And this is just a narrow funnel, which is really good for filling those bottles up. This is the AG brand. My other preserving gear is Ball, so you're probably more likely to find these ones in like Mitre 10. I find having a really good sieve handy. It's really hard to find a good sieve. I came across this one in a second-hand shop. It is super sturdy. If I try and like push it out, it just doesn't budge at all, compared to what I was using beforehand, which is my broken sieve, because the first time I tried to push anything through it, it just came out. So if you can find like I always find like old stuff is way better made, and that is not, you know, gonna break easily. The other thing I have is just some plastic lids for my jars. So I have some plastic lids for my jars. These ones are the Ball brand, so they fit the Ball jars. These they would fit the new AG jars as well, so the gold ring AG jars. These are old, like pickle peanut butter for like those old jars. So these would fit the green jars. These just kind of came on jars that I've bought secondhand, so I just hang on to those, because when you open a jar and put it in the fridge, it's so much nicer to put like one like this on than have to have the lid and the ring and take it off every time. I always find it falls on the ground and it's a nuisance. The other thing I keep in those drawers are my fermenting lids. So these are just really handy for making ferments. Just lets the gases out as you ferment. So I've got a few of those, as well as some fermenting weights. I just keep that all in my one that says canning tools. And some pizza trays. So these are really good for using as racks in the bottom of your preserving pots. They're just from the op shop. They're really great for using for that job, not for pizza. So I have a few of these, as well as the ones that came with my pressure canner. So this is the one here that came with my pressure canner. These are really great too. So inside I also have a little plastic tool which is for debubbling the jars. Mine came as a set with my ball tools, but you could use like a chopstick or anything like that. It also has little measurements for headspace, which I really like. And then I have this tool here which I use for like packing my jars really tightly, which stops that fruit from floating, which I find really handy as well. Alright, next on the shelf I have my drawer of lids. So I've got a ton of AG lids in here. So AG lids are not my favourite, like I said before, so they're being saved for an emergency. So if I can't find lids or anything, they're just going to have to be used. I've got a few packs of ball lids, a few packs of the Kate's Kitchen ones. I haven't actually used those ones before. The 4-jar lids are from Amazon. They come in wide mouth, regular mouth. They're in a pack of 100. They are marvelous. I would hardly say I've had any jars fail using these canning lids. So I like to buy these occasionally. Usually when I'm like buying a Christmas present or trying to find, you know, something, a gift for somebody or something like that, I'll chuck a couple of those into the cart as well, and I try and just do that once a year. But yeah, I really love those ones. They are definitely worth bringing all the way from America, for they're just spectacular. I love them so much. Alright, and then next I just keep all my regular mouth lids together and all my wide mouth lids together. That's just really handy, so I don't have to sort through them. The next thing I have here is just a couple of, well, one's a box, one's a container of just like the grab and go. So say I'm preserving, I'll just grab this whole box out and take it to the kitchen, and it's got a few rings and lids of different sizes and colours, so that's really handy to have too. It just makes a really quick job of it. So they kind of just need to be sorted out at the end of the preserving season, but yeah, at the moment they're really handy just to grab. We've got our tomato press here, so that is from Lehman's. Lehman's doesn't ship to New Zealand anymore, so that's a bit of a bummer. This is like one of the best things for making things with tomatoes, sauces. It's really good, takes the skins and seeds out, so yeah, I really love that. Right, and we've got my ladder here now for the top shelf, so I don't have to take it all down. So here I keep all my old preserving lids, unless they get really bent up or yucky when they come off the jars, but these can be reused. I just haven't had the need to reuse them before, so that's just like my emergency box, so I can't get lids in New Zealand all of a sudden, you know, if something happens, disaster or whatever, I have got a backup that I can use. You'll see here as well, I have a whole lot of these ball rings and lids. So I got these from our local electric store. I just happened to be in there buying something else one day and saw that they had a few boxes of these for only $3.99, whereas they should be about $12.99. So I snapped up as many of those as I could. I've hardly used any of those, but at this stage, but they are definitely going to come in handy the more I preserve. I do find that the rings do rust quite easily, so it's always going to be beneficial, since we have ball jars, to have these as a backup. So that's everything to do with preserving that we have. I'm pretty sure I haven't missed anything, but I probably have. When I go back and edit the video, I will probably think of something that I didn't mention or forgot about. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you have stuck around for this whole video, I'm sure it's going to be super long. I'm so pleased that I have somebody else out there who is just as passionate as me about jars and preserving and things like that, so it's really cool. It's cool to have you here. We are really enjoying making videos, and yeah, it's really great being able to share the things that we really love. But that is all I have for today. I will do a part 3 of the pantry, which will be all of our bulk food and our pantry, our supermarket items. And then that will be it. The pantry tour will be all done. We appreciate you guys so much, and thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.